You're inside the Sac Actun cave system. What you can see is the trisection of the passages that lead to the CENOTE CALIMBA, Great CENOTE, and CENOTE Box Chen. After seeing this horrific beauty, which is something that only a select handful of us humans get to experience, we are energized, joyful, and ready to return to our regular lives. Coming from one way, they are unaware that one of these other two ways leads to life, and death is pounding on their frail doors from the other. They are death. Welcome to Adventure Uncovered. YUCATAN'S jungle is teeming with intrigue and adventure. There are no signs of rivers or lakes, just trees for miles and miles. However, rivers exist. Only that they move underground through extensive cave networks. The Sac Actun system, located in northeast Quintana Roo, Mexico, is among the largest underwater cave systems along the Caribbean coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. In the Sac Actun system, around 8 miles after Tulum, on the route to Coba, is where you'll find CENOTE CALIMBA. The average depth of the cave is just approximately 33 feet. The Paso de la Gato tunnel allows CENOTE CALIMBA's moderate flow to flow directly into Great CENOTE towards the southeast. A triangular intersection is halfway along this route to Great CENOTE. The other trail leads to CENOTE Box Chen. Along the route, 2 trails go to the CENOTE Box Chen. One of them also intersects with the route of the hourglass part. Let's simplify things. Picture a disorientated semicircle with an upward-facing border that extends from the CENOTE CALIMBA to CENOTE Box Chen. Imagine the path to the Great CENOTE deviating from the CENOTE CALIMBA's journey to the CENOTE Box Chen at the precise center of the arch of the semicircle. On the morning of Tuesday, December 9th, 2004, the group of cave divers proceeded towards CENOTE CALIMBA on the Coba Road. CALIMBA is a part of the Sistema Sac Actun. This is the cave's smallest, extremely adorned, and most temperate region. The group split into 2 bands, one band of 5 including the escort, and the other 4. Both teams mapped out to enter and also exit at CENOTE CALIMBA. According to the dive plan, the first team of 5 divers, including the guide, would descend with the assistance of the direction and adhere to the primary, ongoing rules until the very end. Unless they came upon a snap and gap, that is. A snap and gap is a line about 20 feet long. It was supposed to be used to join the CALIMBA's permanent guideline to the Paso de la Gato's permanent guideline to have a continuous insight at the end of the CALIMBA line. I must first define a guideline for you before moving on. For cave divers, guidelines serve as a navigational system. Consider those as ropes that accompany you everywhere you go, letting you know if you're headed in the right direction. After safely making their way to the CALIMBA line's end, Team 1 discovered that Paso de la Gato line was already connected to the snap and gap. They first installed their first PNDM, or Personal Non-Directional Marker cookie, on the Snap and Gap line as a protocol to inform any other teams in the cave that this line was being used and also to mark their exit at this intersection for reference while coming back. Team 1 followed the Paso de la Gato line downstream for 65 feet, before making a sharp right bend to meet at the triangle intersection of CENOTE CALIMBA, Grand CENOTE, and CENOTE Box Chen. A single white line arrow directs straightly downstream at this location, on the Paso de la Gato line towards Grand CENOTE. Continuing the arch to the left indicates a short leap to a permanent guideline that leads to the CENOTE Box Chen. They placed a spool on the trisection. 2 PNDM cookies were placed carefully on it. Cookie 2 was placed on the intersection's exit side, pointing towards the CALIMBA line. This was to signal to both teams that the planned exit is back towards the Snap and Gap and the CALIMBA line rather than towards the Grand CENOTE. All of this while Cookie 3 served as a reminder to take the spool out before leaving. After traveling about 500 feet along the fixed Box Chen guideline, Team 1 installed an additional spool to make a 5-foot jump to the left, closing the gap on the CENOTE Box Chen circuit line. They then proceeded along the circuit clockwise before making a left turn and then traveled straight until they reached CENOTE Box Chen. Apparently, Team 2 was expected to turn the dive before reaching CENOTE Box Chen based on air consumption rates and was expected to be exiting ahead of Team 1. After traveling through a fairly tiny cave with a few minor constraints, they arrived at the Snappen Gap at the end of the CALIMBA line. They did so in around 32 minutes. Both teams didn't see each other at all. At the Snappen Gap, they turned and headed downstream on the permanent Paso del Lagarto line for about 65 feet before jumping to the Box Chen line as planned. They made a left turn, followed the jump spool line across the Box Chen line, and proceeded down this line until one of the members signaled for the dive when they reached the desired point. After completing that, they turned around and swam safely to the spool. This spool is the trisection point between the CENOTE CALIMBA, Grand CENOTE, and CENOTE Box Chen. From their perspective, to the left is Grand CENOTE, and to the right is CENOTE CALIMBA. They removed PNDM Cookie 3 but left the spool, and PNDM Cookie 2, marking the return to CALIMBA. Afterwards, for a distance of around 1,400 feet in 25 minutes, Team 2 swam along the permanent Paso del Lagarto line. Meanwhile, Team 1 finished their dive to CENOTE Box Chen, surfaced for about 2 minutes, and then turned around and, assuming that Team 2 had already exited, removed the PNDM Cookies 2 and 1, as well as the Box Chen circuit spool and spool connecting the permanent Box Chen line to the Paso del Lagarto. After a dive that lasted 99 minutes at a maximum depth of 44 feet, Team 1 surfaced at CALIMBA. They entered the cave around 9 AM and emerged around 10 minutes past 11 AM. Team 2 would have passed 4 directional arrows around the same time, all pointing downstream towards Great CENOTE. Yes, they had taken a left at the trisection. After Team 1 exited, the guide among them was anxious that Team 2 had yet to arrive as anticipated when they arrived at the parking area. The tour leader then drove one of the group's cars a short distance to the Grand CENOTE entrance, hoping the group's missing members had left. The panic escalated even more quickly when they realized that the jump spool and PNDM Cookie 2 were no longer in place at the time, having been removed by them as PNDM Cookie 3 had been removed previously by Team 2. They mistakenly took that as a sign that Team 2 had exited. The permanent Grand CENOTE traverse line is located roughly 70 feet away from the permanent Paso del Lagarto line as its terminus. Upon reaching there and not finding any guidelines, it clicked. The members of Team 2 finally realized that they had made a navigational error and needed to head towards their intended exit at CENOTE CALIMBA. One of the crew members immediately deployed the safety spool and began to look for a way out. But despite his best efforts, he was unsuccessful. Guideline to the Great CENOTE, which serves as a haven, was only 70 feet away. They were fewer than 300 feet from the closest cenote and possibly safe. They decided to swim back. The 4-person dive team split into 2 pairs at some point during the return swim. The first set of divers hooked the camera system to the permanent guideline around 100 feet before the trisection to the permanent Box Chen line. Meanwhile, the guide decided to return to CALIMBA after needing help locating them in Great CENOTE. The jump spool and PNDM Cookie 2 were no longer in place, having been removed by Team 1. At this point, it is yet to be determined what pressure each of the divers had in their double aluminium AT tanks. Team 2 kept struggling upstream until they reached the Snappen Gap crossing at the terminus of the CALIMBA line. This had been left in its original location at the beginning of the dive, but again, Cookie 1 that could have assured the location was nowhere to be found. From now on, it is yet to be known exactly how far apart the 2 pairs were from each other. Meanwhile, the guide and Team A have returned to CALIMBA to discover that 2 survivors from Team 2 have surfaced. Despite what many people may think, everything is much graver. 2 of the divers who dove in are missing. Blood is pumping through his veins as the clocks tick down the milliseconds. Rushing is all he can do. He and 2 other members of Team 1 dive in. The darkness is scaring them, and the same water that once felt like home is sending shivers down their spines. Team 1 can finally see the other pair of Team 2 after swimming 250 meters downstream. The guide and 2 of his companions get a terrifying view of the body as one of the victim's major lights is still blazing. The second victim's body is stuck to the cave ceiling. There is no sound, only darkness, 3 guys in bodysuits, and water. Subsequently, it was discovered that just 12 minutes separated life from death. Thank you for watching.